So if you're someone who sometimes struggles with knowing exactly what you want, like sensing inside of you, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, setting clear boundaries, following what really matters to you, communicating clearly in relationships, then hear me out because I want to talk about anger and having like changing my relationship to anger in my life has had a profound impact on every single part of my life. So I'm really passionate to share the things that I've learned. Now, me growing up, I did not learn to express anger. Anger was quite taboo in my family, and so being a very sensitive young boy, young kid, yeah, like I just didn't have really the capacity to step into my anger. So it was kind of more the weak, sickly child. And so that like went on until I was like 22, 23 when I really started exploring these things. I started seeing how much I've buried the power that lies in anger, the clarity that comes from connecting to your anger. And what I want to share in this video is actually a couple of ways that I've tried dealing with anger over this time that I also see a lot of people doing that personally for me they have absolutely not worked. And so it's just something that you can be on the lookout for if you see yourself in any of those. So the very first thing that I did for some time as like a teenager was taking pride in the fact that I did not get angry. Like I was seeing people around me getting angry and I kind of felt superior because I just didn't have that emotion. Now, obviously, that works up for a certain time, and I was definitely pretty good at burying my anger, and so it worked for some time. But then still, you don't have the capacity to connect to your anger, to connect to your clarity, to connect to what you want to say clearly, yes and no. Um, yeah, so that wasn't all that much fun. Um, then I got into stuff like nonviolent communication, was part of a lot of circles where there's a lot of focus on empathy and, understanding other people. Um, I'm simplifying this, but for the sake of this video, it's going to be helpful. Um, and so what I learned there was kind of reframing situations, like understanding that anger is an emotional reaction as a response to how I perceive a certain situation. Hey, Paul. Um, Anger is a an interpretation of a situation. So I kind of learned, well, I always have a choice to kind of do I want to change my interpretation of reality and maybe be like, well, let's look at it from the other side, and maybe there's a good reason the person that I'm angry at is doing what they're doing, um, and that can be helpful. However, if you do that prematurely, like if you go too quickly into understanding the other person, you're bypassing still the anger and you're still not going to be able to connect to the valuable qualities that lie in this emotion, right? It's a kind of bypassing of like, yeah, of course, you can always look at it from the other side and have understanding. And once you've given yourself permission to step into your anger and to be like, I don't like this, I'm not okay with this. Like once you allow yourself this, then looking at the other side is useful. But if you don't do this first step, then you're still not connected to the qualities of anger, to your clarity, to being able to follow what matters to you, to say clear yes and clear no. All right. The third thing that I did was going into catharsis, right? So being in spaces where you're invited and encouraged to like go full on into your anger and to like really connect to the animal inside of you and to scream and to move and to shout. And this is super fun and this super useful experience. And if you have never experienced yourself in this, it's very valuable to find some kind of safe space, some kind of container held by someone who has experience with anger where you can go full in and you know that you will not hurt anyone in this process. However, um, you can also get stuck in this. And for some time, I was like in this, I had this idea of like, okay, I always have to like express my anger full on. Now, the reason why that didn't work for me is that um, once I would go out of the like intense anger, I would feel kind of ashamed and even scared. Like, how was that for the other person? Um, and so, like, I felt more fragmented afterwards than I did before. And so, what I learned there is that um, if I go into my anger full on and I disregard some other sides of me, some other voices, like maybe there's a side in me that's really scared of me going into my anger, or that feels ashamed about feeling anger. Like if I just disregard them and just go full on into my rage, um, it can feel cathartic and be like, ah, oh, nice. But um, like the result is feeling kind of disconnected from other parts of me. So I would not feel like more whole and full and connected and grounded, but more like, oh, like this feels actually right now more stressful than it did before. So those are some of the ways that I experimented with when it comes to anger before I found something that really worked for me. And so I'm going to create a video in the next few days where I will share how that looks like for me. Like, how do I connect to anger these days? Now, I'm super curious if you're watching this live or the replay. Just put in the comments what are some of your ways that you have learned to either repress anger or overly express it. Like, what are some of those patterns that you find in yourself? And yeah, check back to my page in a couple of days and I will share the approach to anger that I have right now. All right, have an awesome day. I'll see you soon.